Alright, so today we got something kind of different, kind of bold, kind of divisive. This is the Samsung Galaxy S25 Edge, Samsung's thinnest flagship ever. And when I say thin, I mean really thin. This phone is like Samsung decided to run an experiment just to see how far they could push the form factor of a flagship phone in 2025. And the result is honestly pretty fascinating. Now, I've been actually daily driving this thing for about a month, and I'll be real with you. This might just be my favorite Galaxy device Samsung's made in years. Not because it's the most powerful or the most feature-packed, but purely because of how it feels in the hands. The form factor is so unique and so refreshing that it completely changes how I think about using a phone. But here's the thing, there are trade-offs, and some of them might be deal breakers depending on who you are. So make sure you stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly whether or not this phone is worth it for you. First, let's start with the most obvious thing that hits you the second you pick this up: the design. The Galaxy S25 Edge is 5.8mm thick. That's not a typo. That's almost pencil thin. For reference, that's thinner than a lot of smartwatches. It's thinner than an Apple Pencil. It's thinner than the iPhone 13 mini, which was already considered super compact when it came out. And because it's so thin, it's also incredibly light, just 163 grams. So when you go to pick it up, it almost feels like you're holding a glass card instead of a phone. It kind of disappears into your pockets. It slips into tiny bags, clutches, or skinny jeans with zero effort. You don't realize how much bulk most modern phones have until you hold something like this. Now, obviously, when you go this thin, the materials have to be solid. Samsung isn't skimping here. You've got their Armor aluminum frame, Gorilla Glass Victus 3 on both sides, and full IP68 water and dust resistance. For something this sleek and thin, you might think durability would be a concern, but it still feels solid in the hands. There's no flex, no creaking, and no weak points. Samsung also kept the design language super clean. The sides curve just enough to feel comfortable but not slippery, the camera modules blend into the back nicely, and everything just feels so intentional. You don't get that feeling that any corners were cut to make it this thin. Now, moving around to the front, you've got Samsung doing what Samsung does best: displays. The S25 Edge has a 6.6-inch Dynamic AMOLED 2X panel. It runs full HD resolution, supports HDR10+, and has an adaptive refresh rate from 1 Hz up to 120 Hz, which makes everything feel super smooth. Peak brightness hits around 1750 nits, which isn't Samsung's brightest display ever. The Ultra still leads there, but honestly, it's bright enough. Outdoor visibility is perfectly fine, even in direct sunlight. And of course, the colors are rich, the contrast is deep, viewing angles are perfect. I mean, it's a Samsung flagship panel. You know what you're getting at this point. One thing I found interesting though, because this phone is so thin, it actually makes the display feel more present. Like you're not really holding a phone anymore. It feels like you're holding a pure screen. The bezels are basically non-existent. There's just a tiny punch hole for the selfie camera up top, and the under-display fingerprint sensor is as fast and reliable as ever. The whole front of this phone feels super futuristic. Under the hood, Samsung has packed this thing with some serious firepower despite its slim size. You're getting the new Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 Elite for Galaxy, or as Samsung calls it, simply the Snapdragon 8 Elite. This is a slightly overclocked version of Qualcomm's best chip, made specifically for Samsung flagships. It is paired with 12GB of RAM and your choice of either 256 or 512GB of storage. Now, when it comes to day-to-day use, this phone absolutely flies. Apps launch instantly, scrolling through social feeds is buttery smooth, animations are snappy. I've even played some heavy games like Genshin's Impact and Call of Duty Mobile on max settings, and it handled everything without breaking a sweat. And the thermal management has actually been surprisingly solid, given how thin this device is. One UI 7, which is built on top of Android 15, feels mature, polished, and surprisingly stable. In my opinion, Samsung's finally hit a point where their software feels just as fluid as stock Android, but with a ton of added features and customization. And probably one of the biggest selling points this year, Samsung is promising 7 years of software updates. That's 7 full years of OS upgrades and security patches, bringing it in line with the Google Pixel's promise. This phone will be well supported into the 2030s. Now, before we get into Galaxy AI and the controversial cameras on this phone, a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Saily. If you even travel half as much as I do, this is one of those things that just makes your life so much easier. Saily makes it insanely easy to stay connected when you're abroad. You download the app, install the eSIM once, and you're covered in over 200 countries. They've got super affordable data plans, whether you need just a few gigabytes or even unlimited data. Plus, if you're bouncing between countries, you can grab global or regional plans that cover multiple destinations without swapping anything. No more standing in line at the airport for local SIMs, no more shady kiosks selling fake SIM cards outside of the station. You land, you're connected, it's very simple. And the best part, you don't have to stress about running out of data mid-trip. Saley will actually notify you once you hit 80% of your data, and topping up your plan literally takes seconds inside the app. Plus, it works on both iOS and Android, and if your device doesn't support eSIM for any reason, Saley offers a full refund. They've even got built-in privacy tools, ad blocking, and full 24/7 live chat support if you ever need help. Get an exclusive 15% discount on Saley's data plans. Just download the app, use my code RJ, or scan the QR code right here on the screen. Of course, it wouldn't be a Samsung phone review in 2025 without Galaxy AI baked into everything. And honestly, this is where Samsung software starts to feel pretty futuristic. You've got transcript assist that can summarize meetings or lectures into bullet points for you, photo assist that can erase objects, expand your photos beyond what you actually shot, and even generate realistic backgrounds to fill in gaps. It's kind of wild. Then there's generative wallpapers that create custom backgrounds based on your prompts. Voice Eraser for videos is honestly one of my favorite tools. It can filter out background noise while keeping your voice crystal clear, which is perfect for content creators or filming people on the go. Now, Samsung's been very clear that all of these AI features are free for now, but starting in 2026, some of these may end up behind a subscription paywall. We don't know which ones exactly yet, but just be aware that Galaxy AI's full suite might not stay free forever. That said, as it stands today, Galaxy AI makes Samsung's software package one of the most useful in the Android world. Alright, let's get into the cameras because this is where the biggest difference from the Ultra comes in. On the S25 Edge, Samsung kept things pretty simple. You've got a 200 megapixel main sensor, which is the same resolution as the Ultra, but slightly thinner physically to fit into the body. Then you've got a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera, and that's it. No dedicated telephoto lens here. Now, don't get me wrong, the main sensor absolutely holds its own. In good lighting, it takes excellent shots with a ton of detail. The dynamic range is great, colors are vibrant, but not overly saturated like how they used to be on older Samsung cameras. Low light performance is also strong, with Samsung software doing a great job pulling in detail without blowing out highlights or crushing shadows. The ultra-wide camera is solid as well. It gets you a nice wide perspective, and the image quality is consistent with the main lens. No noticeable distortion, and the color science between the two lenses nicely match. Now, the big omission is the lack of a telephoto. Samsung is using AI-powered digital zoom here, and while it is impressive up to 10x, anything beyond that starts to fall apart quickly. You lose detail, you get that watercolor effect, and it's just not a replacement for true optical zoom. If you're someone who loves taking zoom shots like wildlife, concert, architecture, you're definitely going to feel the absence of a proper telephoto lens here. That said, for most people who primarily just use the main camera for regular photos and videos, the Edge still delivers excellent results. But if camera versatility is a top priority for you, this might not be the Samsung model you want. Now let's talk about the battery life, which honestly is probably one of the biggest trade-offs that come with a thin form factor. Because of how slim this phone is, Samsung can only fit a 3900 mAh battery inside. That's definitely on the small side for a flagship in 2025. And while the Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset is more efficient and the software does a pretty good job with optimization, physics is still physics. In my testing, I was averaging around 5.5 hours to 6 hours of screen on time per day with mixed usage. That's actually better than what I expected. But if you're a heavy user constantly gaming, filming videos, or using GPS navigation constantly, you're most likely going to need to charge before the day is over. Samsung does offer 45 watts wired charging, which can top up fairly quickly, and 15 watts wireless charging. But there is no reverse wireless charging on this phone, which is kind of a bummer. Reverse wireless charging isn't really a deal breaker, but it is nice to have for topping up earbuds or smartwatch in a pinch. So battery life is definitely where you start to see the compromises on the S25 Edge. It's fine for the average user, but most power users will probably get frustrated by midday charging. And that brings us to the big question. Who exactly is this phone made for? Samsung's not really aiming for the power user crowd here. That's what the Ultra is for. The S25 Edge is more for people who value design, portability, and that premium wow factor above anything else. It's for people who want a flagship experience in a device that's super light, super thin, easy to carry, and beautiful to look at. You get flagship level performance, flagship software features, great cameras for most situations, but you are sacrificing some battery life and telephoto versatility in exchange for that unique hardware design. This phone kind of reminds me of when Apple had the iPhone 12 and 13 mini. Those phones weren't for everyone, but the people like myself who liked them absolutely loved them. The S25 Edge is sort of Samsung's answer to that philosophy, but at a full flagship scale. So is this phone worth it? That really depends on your priorities. If you want the most well-rounded, no-compromise Samsung phone, the Ultra is still the king. But if you're someone who values premium design, portability, and cutting-edge software, and you don't mind sacrificing some battery life and zoom versatility, the Galaxy S25 Edge is probably one of the most interesting phones Samsung has made in years. This phone definitely isn't for everyone, but honestly, I'm glad that Samsung made it. It's refreshing to see companies experimenting again instead of chasing the same spec sheets. But as always, I'm curious to see what you guys think. Is the ultra thin form factor worth the trade-offs, or do you prefer to stick with the bigger, beefier Ultra models? Drop your thoughts down below. If you made it to the end of this video, make sure you drop a dolphin emoji down in the comments below. I would love to know who my true supporters are. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys on the next one. And don't forget to flex with your ultra thin form factor tech. Like, this phone is super thin, bro.